welcome to episode 70 of the Georgie and
Whoa!
Patty Show. Amazing. I am Georgie,
And I'm Patty.
and we are here today to talk about how to make it. Well, not we are here to talk about it, I guess. More so, Patty's here to talk to you about um, how to make it easier for your clients to buy from you. So, this should be a good one because who doesn't want to make it easier for people to give you money, work with you, and change their life or their business. I like that.
Absolutely. Well, I think a lot of us like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of why we do the things that we do, right?
Exactly.
All right. I'll share our glorious slides.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeehaw. Here we go. How to make it easier for your clients to buy from you. Quote of the day.
Quote of the day. Quote of the day. Truly successful decision making relies on a balance between deliberate and instinctive thinking. And I was thinking about this because I think it's easy to get stuck kind of in one place or the other. Often I don't think for kind of heart-centered, purpose-driven people, I think sometimes we put a little more emphasis on the gut feeling or my instincts kind of thing. And I think when I think of instincts, I like to think that those come from experience. Those are the instincts I more want to listen to, with the things I've had experience with. And I think it's really important to pay attention to the actual facts and information and know the difference between when I am kind of making decisions based on my emotions and maybe things of my past as well, or am I actually looking just at the facts that are in front of me. And when I think about, let's say, getting clients and creating things that are more client focused, am I making decisions based on what my clients want, what my clients would like to see, the actual facts and information I've received from them? Or is it just kind of my grand vision of what I think they would want or what they should want because it's what that they need? So I would find decision making, sometimes it's not that easy, but I think putting in the time to be discerning is really, really important.
It's interesting that you say that. Um, Coming from this decision-making perspective of being the client, right? A lot of times, clients aren't aware of how they make decisions. And one of the things for us to do as marketers is to give a little segue into our topic today is in some ways to do some of that thinking for them.
Make it easy.
Make it easy. Yeah, there's a great book. I used to be a software developer, web developer, and a big piece of that is figuring out what is a good user interface for people. How will they navigate through your software how do you make it intuitive to use software? How do you not frustrate your users? And the kind of the Bible of usability was a book called Don't Make Me Think. And the idea behind that is that users don't like thinking. They want intuitive. They want to feel like they know what they're doing. And that's what we want for our clients as well in our marketing. You don't want to have to make them work too hard in order to buy from you. You want to make it easy for them, and you want to help them in their decision making, and not in a manipulative sort of a way, because you can just make it really clear about what it is that you're offering and how it's different from other options, and how can they decide if it's a good decision for them. So this is our topic. How can you make it easier for people to buy from you? And a lot of it goes back to that. How do we help people make a good decision? And this is a lovely angle to take at this, because this puts you in the role of professional advisor versus infomercial huckster. It's, how do you approach it from that perspective? And one good question to ask yourself at the very, very, very beginning is, do your future clients know how to choose? Do they know how to make a good decision about hiring somebody like you? So a lot of times we think about uh, like we know our business and we know the nuances of what we do. We know how we work. We know how everything flows together. We know our own processes. We know the difference between what we do and what that guy down the street does. Uh, and we assume that our clients know that as well. But one of the things that you want to do in your marketing, always, 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 is to kind of hop across the table into your client's perspective. Georgie was talking about this 2 days ago about being in that, what was it, the second position?
Yeah.
Put yourself in the second position in terms of your client and look at this decision through their eyes. And this is hard. Like it's hard because you have to put away all of your own knowledge, of what you do, but put yourself in their shoes. And it's like, what if you're the first coach that they're thinking about hiring? What if they've never hired a coach before? What if they've never hired a bookkeeper before? What if they've never hired a personal assistant before? What if they've never worked with a counselor before, a lawyer, or a realtor, whatever it is your profession? What if they haven't worked with you, someone like you before? Do they know how to choose someone that's good? And a lot of times we kind of look at our potential clients and we think that, they're asked kind of dumb questions. They always want to know about price. Price is a question they know how to ask. Like a lot of times it's just they don't know enough. They don't know how to buy from you. And that's where this idea of a buying guide kind of sprung for. And so if you were, and this could be an actual exercise. You could actually create a buying guide or a buying guide article or post or video, or you could just use this as a thought experiment, is to ask yourself, okay, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of my potential client, and let's say I'm a life coach. How to choose the right life coach for you, right? And it's just, if I were to give some advice on this, what would I say? Like, some of these questions to consider, right? So if you're thinking about what you're selling, what questions do people ask? Like when you've had conversations and you introduce yourself and you talk about what you do, or you're in a sales conversation with people, what do people actually ask you? Pay attention to that. We talk about data gathering all the time. We talk about doing the assessment, data gathering. What questions do they ask? I am totally, totally fascinated in this course building program that Georgie and I are taking, looking at the chat every time they have a session, the kinds of questions that people ask. It's wonderful, wonderful information. You can do this. You can do this through conversations with people. You can also do this by lurking on social media. Find a group that your potential clients are part of and find out what are they asking? What are their questions, right? So think about that. What questions do they ask? And what questions should they ask? These are not necessarily the same things. This is where you get to pull from your insider information. What should they be asking about you? One of the, I use coaching for an example. Coaching means something different to different people. There are different styles of coaching. There are different approaches to coaching. If you talk to the ICF, they're pretty specific about what it means to be a coach and to call yourself and to be ICF certified. It's a very specific kind of coaching that some coaches don't follow. I know when I went to coaching, like coaching is an unregulated kind of an industry. Anyone could call themselves a coach, and people often do. Uh, so coaching means something different to different people. I was working with a coach a while back who was absolutely shocked that the ICF even had a definition of what coaching was, and that as a coach they shouldn't be giving advice, according to the ICF, right? But if you're a coach who gives advice, that's a distinguishable difference, and maybe it's a question that your potential client should be asking. Is, do you need advice? And does the coach you're considering offer it? That's a really good question that they should be asking, that they have no idea that they should ask, because a lot of coaches don't even know they should be asking that, right? So when you think about this, having empathy for your clients, it's like, okay, what do they not know that they need to know, or that not knowing is going to harm them in some way, really? And it's like, how can you make that easier for them, and how can you feed them some questions that they should ask, and give them that insight? And along the way, explain the obvious, the terminology and the jargon. What's the difference between a coach and a counselor and a consultant and a mentor? Can somebody tell me? Can anybody tell me? Uh, Explain the obvious. What are what are the definitions of those words? What do they mean to you? How do you define them in terms of what you're talking about? What some of that industry jargon that gets thrown around? Um, when you think about setting aside all of your knowledge, what are some of the terms that you use without even thinking about it that people don't always pick up on? Uh, Explain that. Explain how the process works, or how it should work, what to expect. What does it look like to work with a coach? What does it look like to work with a nutritionist? What does it look like to work with a naturopath? What can you expect in your first appointment with a chiropractor? How can you tell if somebody is good at what they do or not? Explain the differences in terms of various providers. The last module in the course building program we're taking was talking about copywriting. Copywriting is something I do, and some of the kind of shock that happened amongst the participants in the chat when they realized that copywriters have specialties, and that different copywriters have different approaches, and that the copywriter you're working with might not be a good fit. Like that it takes some copywriters specialize in writing, say, blog posts and website content, and other copywriters specialize in writing email, and some specialize in writing direct mail sales letters, snail mail, off it goes. Some specialize in writing all of the stuff that you need for a video launch. It's like there's a lot of specialties, and people are like shocked. It's like, I never thought of that. I didn't know that. Including questions like, what is copy? What is a copywriter? It's people don't know what they don't know. And so thinking through this kind of thing for your own business will help you really tease out. Even if you never write a buying guide, you don't necessarily have to write a buying guide or a post or whatever. It'll still have you thinking about some of the stuff that you'll want to share with your potential clients on your website, or in a presentation or a blog post or something like that. So this can be super helpful. And I can't believe that I made it to episode 70 of this show without showing my very favorite article ever, because this headline, it still makes me fall down laughing. A revolutionary marketing strategy, answer your customers' questions. This is a wonderful story. This is an article in the New York Times from just coming out of the last recession. And this fellow, Marcus Sheridan, had a pool company. And what happened in the last recession is a whole bunch of his orders disappeared. People canceled. They had booked in swimming pool projects, and because of the financial crisis meltdown, they canceled. So he wasn't just not making sales, he was losing existing business. And he had to make a change in his business to cut all his advertising expenses. And he decided to go fully online and to basically advertise for free by writing stuff on his website, by starting a blog. And the first thing he did is he went to his sales team and he says, what do people ask? And they came up with a list of questions, and they ordered those questions in order of frequency. And they he wrote individual blog posts for each one of those questions. So the title of the blog post was a question, and the article was the answer. And sometimes the answer wasn't an answer, it was just information. Number one question people wanted to know: how much does the swimming pool cost? So that's what he started with. How much does a swimming pool cost? He gave some estimates and some ranges. He talked about all of the differences between um, different various options and all of this sort of thing. And he basically educated his customers. And they went through the list of every question that the sales team um, had put together, or based on what customers actually asked. And he created like a buying guide. Like some of the questions were, what's the difference between what's better, concrete or vinyl? And I think he was selling vinyl, but he created an unbiased article that addressed the pros and cons of each. He created unbiased kind of reviews of his competitors. He talked about what they were great at, and how he was in comparison. So it was like very much this kind of buying guide strategy. Long story short, he turned his business around, and ended up consulting to other companies to teach them this strategy, like because he went right to the top of SEO search engine searches. Because what do people search? How much does a swimming pool cost? What's better, concrete or vinyl, right? Like he just went for what people were asking. And, this was like 2009, I think, that he did this. So there was this opportunity that he met. And that opportunity to, get to the top of the search engines through the strategy is probably past. However, the idea of answering your customers' questions as a marketing strategy is still golden. It's beautiful. So this is a cool article. You can find it searching for Marcus Sheridan. He also wrote a whole book on this called "They Ask You Answer," outlining his entire strategy. And what I love about it is it's so simple. It's just so simple. Answer customers' questions, and like he says, you don't have to give them an exact answer. You just have to give them more information. It's an opportunity to educate, because as much as we don't like the question about price. How much does it cost? Most of us don't like that price or that question, but answering it in terms of ranges and things to consider uh, allows you to educate. You take the question and you create education. Super smart. So when you answer the questions, when we think about a buying guide, if you want to be seen as honest, and if you want to truly be helpful to your clients, it's about being unbiased. It's about being honest, recognizing that the more honest you are about what you are offering and how it differs from what other people are offering, is the more attractive you will be to the people that you serve, the more attractive you'll be to your future clients, and the more repulsive you will be to the people that are not future clients. And Georgie and I were chatting about this right before we got on the call today. This is a very, 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 very difficult thing for people to do. We don't want to exclude people. We don't want to possibly take away opportunities to bring in business. The kind of instinctual place that people come into with their business is, how do I cast a wide net as possible? How do I capture every single potential client out there? How do I create marketing messaging that doesn't turn anybody off and gets everybody excited? And you can't do that. So when you think through how you what you offer compared to what other people offer. And even if this is really like when you're level 2, you really want to dive into this. But even in level 1, just getting started, there are some things that you will already know. So work with what you already know in order to distinguish yourself a bit. So one of the things that's helpful to do here is to do a competition survey, is to take a look at who else is doing, who's offering a similar service. Who are your competitors? And if you don't think about them as competitors, you can think about them, George Cow calls them niche mates. But, people who offer something similar to what you're doing, maybe not exactly the same, but similar. But who are those people? Take a look. It's like, okay, Who else is doing this? Think about, the people who are the top of your industry, the famous people that you look up to. Think about people who are just getting started, that maybe are a little bit behind you even, right? Who are the people on about the same level, who are a little ahead, a little behind, who's charging more, who's charging less, right? Like, get a kind of a wide variety of potential competitors so that you can see your piece of the puzzle versus their pieces of the puzzle, right? And then how do you compare? What are the differences? What are some things that they do that you don't? What are some things that you do that they don't? What are some differences in how you work? Take a look at that. Doing this, and I'd advise when you do this, don't get into this compare and despair place. If do this on a good day when you're feeling good about what you're doing. And remember, it's not we call it competitors. It's not a competition so much. It's about compare and contrast. How are you, where are you similar? Where are you different? It gives you really good information about your edges. It gives you really good information. So take a look at what makes you different. And here's the secret to all of this is look for the unfair advantages. So you will look at your competitors and you'll go, okay, what's an unfair advantage that they have? What can they do that you can't? So for example, if Georgie and I were to look at other people who teach business training, helping people get clients and start a business and get going, we can look at somebody like, say, Marie Forleo. Okay. What advantage does she have? Oh, she's got an enormous audience and a ton of money and a zillion raving fans and connections and all of that. It'd be very easy for us to look at her and go, life is so unfair. Business is so unfair. I can't compete with that. They look at all of these advantages, right? Like, oh yeah, well, she can afford to throw money at stuff, and she's got a whole team to execute things, and she's got all of this stuff. How unfair, right? Then turn it around and you go, okay, what unfair advantages do you have? And there will always be something, right? What's unfair about us? We can offer access. Join Marie's program. I'm just going to bet you're not going to have an opportunity to talk to her. She's not going to give you a bat phone. We give our clients a bat phone. So we let people talk to us, right? This is what we're able to do that other people can't. And always, if you're the small guy and you're looking at the big guy, you can be more flexible, you can be more personal, you can give more time and attention. You can always do that. And it's unfair because they can't. We look at this course program thing that we're in, the $1 Million Launch. They've hired coaches to do the coaching because it's too big for the person who runs it to be able to do the coaching individually. That is not appealing to everybody. A lot of people do not want to work with the underling. They want to work with the person who is at the top doing the yapping, right? It's like, that's what we can offer. But they can't. They're trying to offer access and support by hiring people. It's not the same as working with the person who founded the whole program, right? That's a hard thing to do. Large companies have a really hard time offering personalization. They have a hard time offering decent customer support. They have a hard time offering access, customer service. All of those sorts of things that big companies struggle with. Us small guys, we can run circles around them. We're flexible. We can offer customization. We can offer access and specialized services. So even if you're just getting started, you're looking around, you're going, there are definitely some things that you can do that those more well-established people can't. Okay, so you want to look at what those unfair advantages are, because you want to play that up. Now, this is something that I first learned about back in 1993. when I was managing a real estate company for my then partner, um, and uh, I got my real estate license and I went to real estate sales school. And one of the questions that came up in the class was, how can I possibly compete? I'm brand new. Everyone else has contacts and connections and name recognition, and they've won the awards and they have their picture on the bus bench. And how do I compete? And the fellow said, you're new. The very first person that you work with is going to get 100% of your attention. So you lead with that. You tell them that you're new. You tell them that you know that the stuff that you've learned is right at the top of your head and you're up to date on the latest practices. You tell them that because they're your only client and that you're looking to build a reputation, that you're going to give them 110% and you are going to be by their side the whole way, and you're going to be making sure that they are like the happiest client ever. He says, the guy that's at the top of the charts cannot do that. You can provide the personal attention, so that's what you go in with. And real estate knows this. They are so, you list a house, that house is what you get. And you need to find what's good about that house and you need to sell it. And you can find the good in everything. And that's the other piece of advice here, is find the positive. There's always something positive. When you think about the features that you offer, how you do things, even when you think about the things that might not seem positive, how do you twist it around? I'm new and I don't have very many clients. Therefore, I can give you lots of attention, right? Real estate is famous. Like, this is kind of a joke. It's like, oh, they're describing the house as cozy. That means it's going to be small, right? But for somebody who wants cozy in a small house, there's lots of positive, right? A cozy house. Well, first of all, it's cozy. What a nice adjective, right? So it's cozy. It's easy to clean. It's cheap to heat, right? It's easier to take care of. There's lots of advantages to having a cozy house. Your kids can't move back home with you. Nobody expects you to entertain, right? Like, for some people, those are appealing. Like, when you look at our magnet, the people who want that are like, yes, that's what I want. And the people who want a big house that's spacious for entertaining aren't going to look at this, which is good, because you don't want to waste anybody's time, right? So if you got the little cozy house to sell, you find the advantages in the cozy house and you talk about that. And you can twist everything around, okay? Places in disrepair, it's a handyman special. Build some sweat equity. It's like, even if the thing is dilapidated and falling down, it's like, wow, great development potential. The lot's worth a lot. Look at what you could build here. Look at the possibilities. Look at the opportunities, right? There's always a positive, regardless of what you're dealing with. So look for it. Or as we used to say in software development, it's not a feature. It's a bug. It's a feature, not a bug. And you can almost do that, right? It's like, yeah, your computer restarts every once in a while unexpectedly, which is great because it clears out your memory cache and gets it. And when it comes back up, it's going to be faster than ever, right? It's like you could twist anything around. This is kind of the key to marketing, and it's not about lying so much, right? Like, it's not lying. You're not claiming that the cozy house is big and spacious. You're just accentuating all of the awesomeness that comes with small and cozy, right? It's just, you're finding what's great and you're accentuating it. You're turning up the volume on it. You're making sure that people notice that, right? This is what I do, right? And the stuff that you don't do, it's just kind of, you wipe it away. Okay. So, permission slip for today, your piece of advice for today, is to find the positive in what you offer and to accentuate it. So what do you think? Comments? Feedback?
I thought that was awesome. Well, and I love the part about, what's your unfair advantage? Because I think so often we're always on the other side of that, and that's where a lot of our own beating ourselves up, our lack of self-worth, our I'm not good enough, all of that stuff comes from that. And just that simple little reframe and starting to look at, oh yeah, actually, what are the unfair advantages that I have that they don't? What are my positives that I bring to this? I think it's so incredibly useful. Like huge.
And this is U-shaped, right? Like this is the essence of U-shaped. It's like, what is it about you that is just you-y? And
Yeah.
how do you play that up, right? Like, because it's the fact that you are you is an unfair advantage. Your personality is an unfair advantage, regardless of what it is.
Exactly.
It's totally unfair. And this is the idea that, we look at, like, personal branding or whatever. It's like, take your personality, turn out the volume on it.
Exactly.
It's just work with what you have. We run into trouble and we get bland and boring where we try to pretend that we're something that we're not. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't work. It reminds me, like this of people who kind of still have it ingrained that only big companies are worth working with, like, and they want to pretend that they have employees. They make up people to put on their website. They install a phone tree on their phone, press 1 for customer support, press 2 for sales, like, because they want to make out like their business is bigger than just them. It's like, my name and associates, that kind of thing. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like that stuff has never made sense to me. It's like, wow, the biggest advantage you offer is they get to work with the owner.
Exactly.
Like, how awesome is that? And I love it when people like put their cat and their dog or whatever up on their about page and say, yeah, here's my customer support team. Yeah.
So true. I worked with a web designer once, and they were a husband and wife team. And so they had the husband and the wife, they had their new baby, they had their cat. They're like, this is what our team looks like.
Yeah.
And I think the baby was was in charge of creating balance and making sure they took breaks, something like that. Like they were pretty creative in how they worded things, but that was so funny.
Yeah.
And honest and true. And it, and when people, I think, show up as who they are, I was like, oh, I'm so happy I worked with you guys. Like, you kind of, if that's your thing, you really start to feel, I think, an affinity for that. Mm-hmm. So it's so good. Let's see, we've got some chats. My unfair advantage is I specialize in working with artists and makers to support them becoming well-fed with a sustainable art career. Nice.
Yeah. That is what, here's what I love about that, right? When we choose who we want to work with, is that people who are artists and makers are going to be like, oh, that's for me, right? It's the attraction is there. Like, they see it, right? It's so clear. Like, don't make me think. They're not thinking, oh, I wonder if they work with artists. They're like, oh, they specialize in working with artists. Excellent. They're going to be better than anyone else who offers that service. Like, right away, like, just like that.
Exactly.
It's just, it's when you choose something like that, it makes your marketing easier. And at the same time, it means if they run a pizza joint, they're probably not going to call you.
Exactly. Yeah, I think someone put in the chat earlier about yay to being repulsive.
I love that.
Yeah.
Permission to be repulsive. Oh, well,
and I love
want to go over on my vicious lip.
It's another one. We can add it for Friday. And how can I be more repulsive to my non-future clients? Like, I'm like, that's such a great question. And she answers it by being more authentic. But I thought we just don't often think in that way, right? We often think of, well, how can I just be more to everybody? And I want to be really inclusive and I don't want to leave people out, but how often do we actually think, how can I actually really be more repulsive to the people who aren't my clients? Like, I gotta make this really clear where they're like, heck no.
Yeah.
Like, I love it.
You start
So
thinking
good.
about that, like about how you work and how you like to work. Well, it was like the example I gave the other day. It's like people who like shortcuts don't like working with me. Like, brilliant. People who are looking for magic bullet solutions won't like working with me.
Exactly.
It's, I remember a graphic designer. I thought this was brilliant. Like, here's an example of repulsive. You're hiring me for my graphic design ability and my professionalism. You've looked at my template and you've looked at my portfolio and you like the work that I do. I take no feedback. I will incorporate none of your suggestions. You get no revisions. You're hiring me because I'm a pro who's going to tell you what you need. And it's just like, and if you want collaborative work environment, go to Fiverr, right? Like, it was just very much, it's like, this is how I work, right?
Yeah.
And if you look on graphic design forums and you watch graphic designers talk to each other, it drives them absolutely crazy when people ask for revisions because it wrecks their work. It's because people who don't know what makes good design give feedback about what they want. And then the designer gets upset because it destroys the work from how they've seen it, right? And it's like, this guy was like, I'm not having that. I'm not playing that game.
So good.
So it's just, and up here also, price.
Yeah.
Not only do you not get any input, but you're going to pay me well.
Yeah.
But that's a confident stand to take from an established professional, right? That's not for everybody. An alternative could be saying, I will work with you and collaborate with you, and you get to put all of your input in, and I'll figure out what's in your imagination and I'll bring it to life. Like, you could take all the stuff the graphic designers complain about. They don't know what I want. They ask for too many revisions. And you could turn that into your unfair advantage and say, that's how I work. You get lots of input. We'll work together on this. You can watch over my shoulder as we make your logo together. Some people would love that.
So true. It's so true. I can think of when I've been in kind of both of those camps where I've been like, I just need something made. I need it made now. This is not my area of expertise. I just need you to go and do it. And the same thing, I've looked, I like your style. I feel like the vibe. Just make it. Please don't even ask me any questions or ask me very few. And then go do it. And I think of probably one of my first websites that I didn't build myself that was actually really pretty, that I really liked. I had very little input into the design. I was just like, and I'm like, great, love it. Need to get it up. Let's do it. And then I get this poor graphic designer. She did some stuff for me where I was like, yep, here's what I needed. She just made it and it was awesome. And then I was like, okay, no, this is what I want. And I'm like drawing my little pathetic attempt at making the picture or whatever. And she's like, Georgie, that is not going to translate. And I'm like, that is what I want. And she's like, I'm telling you, you've got way too much stuff in there. It's not going to translate for the different things that you want it to do. And I'm like, why are you arguing with me? Like, this is, how stupid is that even statement? Why are you, the graphic designer, arguing with me who knows nothing? So dumb. But she was really, I think because she was really great at just her communication, right? She's like, okay, how about this? How about I'll create it your way, and can I make something on my own? Will you at least look at it? I was like, yeah, sure. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you're going to see how good my thing is. And of course, who do you think was right? Totally. And I never would have thought the way that you know what I mean? And then so it was such a good lesson to me for like, stay in your lane, Georgie. Like, stay where your level of expertise is, like, realistically, like, because I can get stubborn, right? And sometimes I dig in and I was like, oh my God. But like I say, she was really great by being able to at least have the conversation with me. But yeah, she knew way more than I did in that situation. But so I've since learned it's better to just
She was
shut my
probably
mouth.
complaining about you to her
Oh,
graphics
she
manager.
probably was. She was probably like, oh my gosh, this woman. I mean, I think probably the only saving thing with her was that she'd already done a bunch of stuff for me before. And so I think she liked me. If this had been our first interaction, she probably would have told me to just stick it. Which, of course, I would too. I'd be like, "Oh my god, like you don't even like
Yeah.
what the hell?"
It's interesting. A long time ago, I commissioned a website designer to design a website for me, and I filled in their questionnaire and sent them the money. And it was really weird because it was just like buy it online. Like there's no talk to anybody or whatever, right?
Yeah,
But it's an in-depth questionnaire, right? And I spent hours filling in. And I sent them the money, and they sent me back my site. Let us know how much you love it or something like that. And I looked at it and I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? It's girly and it's flowery. And how the hell did you get that from me? Right. And I'm like, sorry, I don't love it.
yeah,
It's too girly and it's too flowery and I don't like the colors and I don't understand where you got this. And it's like, I received my money back like instantly. Like they did no engagement whatsoever. It was just like, no, you're not a good client. Here's some money, go away. I'm
yeah,
like, wow, that's really, at the time I'm thinking, that's pretty ballsy, but really they they could just tell this was not going to go. Like the communication wasn't there, and they did not offer the get on the phone, let's talk about it option.
yeah.
So if I couldn't communicate in writing well enough for them to get it, it wasn't going to work. Or if
Just
I just wasn't on the same wavelength with what they created or whatever, it's just like boom.
game over. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
this is the thing about a U-shaped business, right? You get to set it up any way you want.
Exactly, exactly. So good. Oh, we have another unfair advantage. My unfair advantage is I'm a former lawyer who understands what it's like to overwhelm my audience with excessive details and then to develop informative presentations that connects to their audience by using brain science on how people learn and remember.
There are multiple things going on in that statement. And I would say that the most unfairest advantage of all of that is the former lawyer piece.
Yeah,
Because when you understand somebody else's business and profession and line of work, there's an instant amount of communication in there and an instant kind of a bonding thing that happens. You're like, oh, you
exactly.
get me.
You get me. You understand me.
Yeah, you can use the jargon.
Yeah, exactly. So
I just,
true.
yeah.
So very true. Let's see if I missed anything else. Lots of good comments. Yeah. Who else shows their doodles? A little thing that now, but now what we've emphasized and accentuated several times, hearts and flowers, boxes, and arrows. It's funny the little things, right? That just end up becoming things that show up because it's just who you are.
And that's just it. It's you know, it's often stated it's a very organic process, right? It's like you show up as who you are. It's less about deciding these things so much as just allowing them to be decided for you in a way.
Yeah.
It's like you show up, you do your thing, and then who shows up as your clients, right? You're going to attract the
Exactly.
people who like you for however it is that you're showing up, right? It's just then you start to see. You can say, oh, okay, these are my people. Oh, this is what they're asking. Oh, this is what they're looking for. Just
Yeah, and it takes time, which we've been talking about a lot. Patty and I, not on the show, but in our conversations off the show, that this is a process and this is a journey, and it's something that when you're building a business that where you actually love your work, there's a time commitment involved in this. And I think this goes back to, working with people that want shortcuts. They're definitely probably not going to find happiness here.
No shortcuts, no delusional promises.
Yeah. Nice.
All the sexy things, new and improved, contains hard work.
Yeah. Woohoo! You might get frustrated. Actually, you probably will.
This stuff that scares you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is everything in the box. Woohoo!
Just not very sexy at all.
Yeah. Not at all.
I just saw a comment flash up that I wanted to respond to, because I think it's an interesting observation. It's like about deciding to show up authentically. I think that who you are is going to seep out. Like, it's kind of like you can try to be something that you're not, and at some point your guard's gonna slip. You're gonna show up as you actually are authentically, whether it's because you're under stress and something happens, or because you're just in a moment of connection with somebody and you just kind of drop the facade. Like, I think that I don't know that I ever made a decision to show up authentically as much as it just happened. And at some point I realized, yeah, I might as well roll with it.
It's easier.
It is. It's just easier. Like, and there's a lot of things. There are a lot of things about, starting and running and growing your non-trivial enterprise here that are challenging. And it's just like pretending to be somebody you're not. Just I have no space for that. I have no energy for that.
Yeah, it takes a lot of work to show up as someone you're not, and to always make sure you're maintaining that image or that guard. Your guard's always up. Like, it requires a lot of work.
Yeah. And it's one of these things too. It's like, especially for me, it's running around in circles in some ways. Is that when I was younger, I looked at a lot of who I am and go, oh, wow, look at all of these deficiencies you have, Patty. You need to be better with people. You need to be more empathetic. You have to, develop better skills this way. I took counseling classes and communication classes and coaching courses and stuff like that in order to get better with people. And some of it, definitely was helpful. I wouldn't be here without it. But a lot of times when I take that just a step too far, I find myself taking on a role that isn't me. And it was just, I did a year of counselor training to volunteer to be a lay counselor. And it was just, I was terrible at it. And it wasn't for me. And when I tried to do it, it took so much energy. And I looked at the other people who were built for it. And their experience of it was so different from mine. And their ability to do it was so much better than mine. It was just like, they were better the day they walked into the course than I could ever be after all of the training. Like that, it's just skills and ability and talents and preferences and all of that kind of stuff, right? I don't know where I'm going with all of this, but anyhow, what I find is that when I'm in situations where I'm trying to draw on skills that I have to work hard on, it's very draining and energetically for me. It's like, that's the stuff that it's not a good fit. And it's just like, it's part of what I'm noticing. It's like, okay, where do I feel highly energized and where do I feel the energy dropping? What leaves me feeling tired and drained versus tired and satisfied? Like, there's a different feeling at the end of the day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes this stuff isn't always 100% evident. Like this whole thing of showing up as yourself and figuring out who you are, is not necessarily something that's built in, you know. I think it is built in. It's just it gets covered up over layers of crap or something. I don't know.
I think that's so true. I think it's a good point too, right? About taking that time to really get to know who you are, like really who you are, that self-inquiry, and then working with who you are instead of trying to make yourself someone you're not, right? Like trying, like we've talked about this before, about, you know, trying to fight your personality and trying to, I'm going to be a morning person because everybody says you should get up at 5 a.m. When 5 a.m., if you're more productive at 10 o'clock at night, then you're more productive at 10 o'clock at night. Like, you know what I mean? Like work with yourself instead of trying to be just who you're really not because someone else said that's who you should be because that's who they are. And that's what works really well for them. You know, and I think that does take a level of really, like say, self-inquiry and being able to put out all the other things that are coming in from so-called experts and just spending some time getting to know yourself. Like, because I'm like, how can I make this easier? Let me start to understand really who I am and how I work. And sure, there may be some things that I'm like, I'd like to kind of work on that part of me and maybe create some little tweaks and adjustments over there. But some stuff I'm like, you know what? If I could just learn to work with this piece of me of, you know, maybe being a little bit stubborn, or, you know, I do typically have kind of this more or less all or nothing kind of way of doing things. And I find the middle ground is hard. And I'm like, I'm always searching, just be in the middle, be in the middle. Then I'm like, well, how can I actually make this all or nothing thing just work for me? What do I need to put in place? And because when I do that, it's easier. I have more flow and I actually end up with more balance or whatever when I just start to work with how I am. I like to get up early. Later in the day, I'm not that useful. So instead of being like, oh, you know, Georgia, you should work till 7 or 8 or 6 or whatever. Nah, how about I just call it at about 2 or 3 because that's when I'm good there because I've been up since 5 or whatever it is. Because that's when my creativity is working. You know, I like to work out in the morning instead of, so all of these things, like how do I just work with what's natural for me and adjust things in those ways that work for me instead of trying to fight myself because someone else said that's how it should be done. But I think it requires, like I say, that self-inquiry that, oh, what does give me energy? When do I feel most energetic? When am I getting in my own way? And, you know, I like to bring easy in as often as possible. There's a lot of hard. I like hard too, but you know, if I can kind of simplify.
You do the hard things in an easy way, right?
Exactly. Yeah. How do I make it easier to do the hard things instead of making it extra hard because I'm fighting myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just wonder how often we make things harder than they need to be because of that.
Probably more often than is necessary.
Yeah.
I would say for sure.
The other thing that helps is aging.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard about cognitive type, how we do things?
No.
Quick start, follow through, implementer, fact finder. Kathy Colby has a test for this. Ooh, yes, and with cake. Exactly. Ooh, a new little personality thing to check out.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, hey, I made a slide to talk about plus humor. Always plus humor.
Always plus humor.
I wanted to talk about the workshop that's coming up.
Oh, yay. Awesome. Cool.
Yes. August 8th. This is going along the lines of a buying guide here. Content marketing and social media calendar workshop. This is, here's what we're doing. This is one of the things that Georgie and I have decided in terms of what we offer in terms of workshop. is to have as much working in the workshop as possible and as little yapping as possible. We do the yap on the show. We share that kind of stuff, but what we really want to do with people when we do the workshop is going to be a focus on implementation and feedback. That's the stuff that we like to do. Let's get stuff done and let's help you do it better, right? So this is a full day. This is a working kind of workshop, maybe less fun because you actually have to type stuff or pick up a pen and paper or something like that. But the idea behind this is to leave the workshop with 52 topics and titles that you'll be excited to share. So this is about how do you create content, and how you share it's up to you. You can do it in writing, you can do it in video, you can make images, you can go live with it, you can do presentations. Doesn't matter. What matters is the words, right? The mechanics don't matter, the words do. But how do you craft titles that attract attention? How do you develop content that builds that know, like, and trust? And through the whole thing, how do you become better at writing copy? How do you become better at writing in a way that's designed to market what you do, right? So ideas, topics, titles, and a posting plan and calendar so that you don't get stuck about what to post. This is a feedback I'm getting from people. It's like, I know I should do this, but I don't know what to say. I don't know what to post. I don't know when to do it. So putting together the plan and the calendar so that you're able to move forward. And simple templates to make the writing or talking easy. So you get the title, you know what the topic is, and it's like, here's the flow. Here's how, because you're not going to be able to write 52 articles in a day. It'd be lovely if you could. But the hard part is the title, it's the headline. So we're going to do that. This is going to be like an intensive workshop on writing headlines, which is going to make you a better copywriter. So that's what it's about. It's August the 8th, and I will have information up on the site about that by the end of the week. But I wanted to share that because this is a huge piece of building a U-shaped business. It's about getting your work out there and in front of people. And just in case you happen to be tuning in, hello, future people. You don't know who we are, never heard of us, uShapeBusiness.com. And there's a free recording of a 2-hour workshop on how to get coaching and consulting clients without cold calling, complicated tech, or gross pushy sales tactics. And you can sign up for that there. That's what I wanted to say about announcements.
Awesome. Very, very good. And perfect timing. It's 10:29.
And there we are at 10:29.
10:29 on this lovely Wednesday day. Yeah, I think that's going to be an awesome workshop, because I know for me, that is the struggle point. It's like coming up with those topics and those titles. But when I have them, easy. So actually, and as someone who can procrastinate a bit, I love the efficiency of, let's just get in, let's take a day, let's make it happen, and then I can move on with it, right? It's incredibly efficient.
It is. It's efficient, and it's also an all or nothing thing, because you're doing it all.
Exactly.
Rather than the default of nothing. And
Yes.
it's a little bit like we teach what we need to learn, right? It's like, I know how to do all this stuff. I don't get around to doing it. So this is part of what will make it happen. So I'm excited.
Exactly. Me too.
So there we go.
All right. There we go.
End of another lovely episode. Have a wonderful day. We'll be back Friday with the weekly review. Lots of interesting learning and reflections from this week. And you're invited to share yours as well. Have an amazing day. See you on Friday. Same bad time.
Same bad channel.
Yep.